Hi everyone, it's Miss Kelly from the Wakanda Area Library. Today I'm going to show you what we're doing with this month's teen virtual art. So this month we're going to try quilling, which is actually curling paper. So inside your kit you're going to find some, these are quilling strips of paper, which are just thinly cut strips of paper. They're all the same length but various shades of blue. You're going to find a quilling tool. You can see if you look really closely, it's got a slit in the end here, so it'll help us hold our paper. This is a quilling guide. And then I put a couple stencils in there. There's an actual project in here that if you want to follow exactly, you can make a snowflake, or I give you a couple ideas. But if you look, there's some really elaborate designs you could do. Like this would really lend itself to maybe you could even make something like a peacock or something with these pretty blues. Quilling is a really versatile and unique paper art. Takes time and patience, but you can make it really unique and individual. And as you can see, like even for this project, you're going to cut the strips into different lengths, so you can do quite a bit with the amount of paper that you have in there. So with that, I'm going to show you how to quill or to turn a piece of paper. So to do a quilling project, you're going to need some scissors, maybe a pencil, some glue. A ruler will help, especially if you want to do a specific project. You'll notice that you'll need different lengths of quilling paper to do different size coils and bends. And you can see on here on the guide, there's a couple circles. One of the nice things is that you can put your quilled paper in there and see how big it's going to be and kind of let it go, and it unwinds a little bit into the size, or there's some ovals here. Before you do any cutting or planning, we're going to practice to see what it's like to actually quill something, so you can kind of get a feel for what it's like. So let's take one of your pieces of paper, and then you'll see there's a little slot in the end of your quilling tool there. We're going to slide this right in. It's kind of like threading a needle, same thing. Okay, once it's in there, if you bend it a little bit and then bring it closer to the end, all right, and then you can start just turning it. And you can see I'm turning it kind of with my finger too. I'm keep guiding it to keep it the same size and the same spot, because it can kind of otherwise keep going over the whole head of the quilling tool. You want to keep it in one spiral. Now I'm going to do this whole strip of paper so we can look at a couple different things it does. But like I said, you can cut them shorter. You know, you can do a lot of different things with it. You could even maybe cut it and then glue two different colors together, so you'll get one big spiral that is several different colors. You could do that. So this is really, I'm going to show you a snowflake today, but it's entirely up to you. You have plenty of paper. You can make the snowflake and then go on to make something else, or choose something that you want to make entirely. Okay, so when you get to the end here, if you wanted it to stay this small, tight size, you could put a little dot of glue on there. Okay, and then you're going to slide your tool out of the end very carefully. But what I'm going to do is put it in this guide here and push it down off, and kind of keep my finger on top of it and let it open up a little bit. And you can see, right? So if I keep letting it go a little bit, it can get to the size of this guide. So say you're doing something very specific, like the snowflake, and you want a bunch of parts to be the exact same size, you can use these guides. So like this will hold your circle, and this will let you know, okay, I've got about a 1-inch circle here. That's about the size I want. So if that is the size that you want, then you're going to take it. And I've noticed that in practicing, that if you have a little glue maybe on a piece of paper, and that you could just take, because you just need a tiny little dab of glue. If you put too much on, it's gonna kind of make a mess. Put a tiny little dab of glue on the end there, all right, and then it's gonna stay in this size. Definitely recommend let it drying. And also, sometimes when you've quilled it really tightly and you want it to stay small, make sure that that glue is stuck, or you have it in a guide before you let it go. Otherwise it goes, you know, and the whole thing will open all the way back up. But if you see what I mean, now I could have made a circle of this size using less paper, just not coiled it as tightly, and it gives you a totally different look. So if we take another sheet, take another strip, and I'm going to cut it in half. Like I said, if you're doing a specific project, you can more carefully measure it, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to fold it and cut it that way. All right, and I'm going to roll it, slide it to the end of my quilling tool, and fold it. Now I'm curling it, but I'm curling it less tightly too. Just curling it around. Still kind of using my hand to guide it though, so it doesn't go all over the end of the tool. You want to kind of keep it together. All right. Now I'm going to put it right next to this one in the same size guide circle. See if I can keep it together. can see, and kind of let it go. I'm not going to glue it, but you can kind of allow it to grow a little bit. Let it uncoil. Again, you know, you're going to have to practice how tightly you want to coil something. But you're going to get a different look from it. But you can make the circles be the same size, but it's, again, it's not going to be as densely filled because there's less paper in there. Right? So if you're happy with the size, again, then you put your little tiny dab of glue on the end. Actually, you know, it's really great for this too. A glue stick works really good too, because you just need a little bit of kind of dry glue. So if you have a glue stick, that works perfect too. But what I recommend is once you've planned the project you want to do, you make up a bunch of parts for it first. Okay, so here's a couple circles. Another really common shape that you use is the oval, or you're gonna want to take something like this, and you're gonna make it a little bit more, you're gonna make that ellipse a little bit more pointed at the end. So that's the same thing, you're just gonna take your circle, once it's dry, and you pinch the ends. You get almost the look of an eye, which is really cool. So once you put them together. Okay, so I've taken 2 of my colors and I've cut 6 of them into some 9-inch long strips, and then I've done 6 into 5-inch and another color blue into 5-inch too. So we're gonna take our guide, and I'm gonna take my tool and I'm gonna do the small ones first. Okay, so we're gonna fold this in half. Equal. Right, and then we're going to take the end, again slide it in there and go all the way to the end. I'm just going to do about 3 curves, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, kind of a tight curl on the end there. All right, and then I'm going to slide my tool out, and I'm going to do the other side to the same height. Let's slide that on there, slide it to the end, and then curl it down, and the best way to do it is just hold it so it's at the same height as the other one, okay? You can count exactly how much you curled it if you want, or you can just do like I did and kind of look at it, and I see that I like it done a little bit lower, so I'm gonna slide this back on. It's the thing, I haven't glued anything, so nothing's permanent yet. Once you glue it into place, then you're kind of stuck with that size, but I'm gonna glue it, curl it down a little bit more so it's the same. Right. And then you're going to go ahead and do the remaining 5 of these into the same shape and same height. For your next 5-inch strips, you're going to take and make these into circles. They're going to be in the smaller circle on this side here. Again, slide it on the end and turn. Remember, don't turn too tightly. You don't want a very tight coil. Well, again, it's up to you and your parents, but for the purpose of this snowflake, we're not going to turn it too tight. The tighter you coil it, the smaller it's going to be. You're going to have to kind of let it come out. All right, and I'm going to drop it in that small circle and let it open up a little bit. I want it to open up a little bit more, so I'm going to pull it a little bit, kind of release it. If you hold it and kind of uncoil it a little bit, you can get it to release a little bit bigger. All right. And then because we're doing something that we want to look more uniform, we're going to put it in here, and then you're going to do the same thing to the other 5 strips. All right, so here we have all our shapes done. So we've got 6 of each. So guys, not kidding, this is tricky. It takes a while. This is why I'm giving you this project to practice with, and you'll have plenty of strips left to do another bigger project once you get a little bit more confident and comfortable with what you're doing. Because it can get really, I mean, they're really detailed and in depth. And so we're gonna start with, for this program, 3 of the easier quilling shapes to make. So, and yes, there is names for all the shapes. So for the center of our snowflake, we're gonna start with the 6 larger circles, and we're going to turn these into what we call marquee shape. So we're going to take them, and that means you're just going to take either side and kind of pinch it. We're going to do like that eye, make it look like an eye. There's 1. right, there's the 6 of them. And this is where you're really going to see how well you did on your shaping, but it's a good way to practice. The V scroll is already built in the way that you need it. So obviously it's a V with scrolls at the end. So those are good. And then with the smaller circle, we're going to make it into a teardrop, which means you're just going to pinch one end instead of making it like that. You're just going to make it into a little teardrop shape. Now this is a point too, you can kind of take, and you can still kind of play with that coil on the inside and wiggle it around. You know, your coils aren't set in stone until you glue it. And even at that point, you can always cut that little section off and re-roll it. But if you roll something too tight, just like we did with this, you can always loosen it back up or tighten it back up. It's just up to you on the appearance. And again, it really does change the appearance, like, you know, if the coils are more denser inside or loosely coiled. Okay. So now we've got all our pieces ready. So we got our teardrops and our marquees and our V scrolls, and we're going to start to assemble. So again, glue stick or craft glue will work fine for this. I've got a little craft glue ready I'm going to use. We're going to try, we'll see. And we're going to assemble these marquee pieces in the middle first so we get the center of our snowflake. I like this because you can kind of just press it into position as opposed to having to squeeze it, because if you squeeze it, it changes, as we saw, it'll change the shape of your paper. And I have to squeeze one more guy in there. When you get to this point, it's a good time to let it stop and let it dry. Okay, so now that we have the center section, all the marquees are connected and I let them dry, it's time to add the V scrolls, which, as you can see, I went back and realized they needed to be smaller. So I coiled them down a little bit tighter. You'll see actually on the template that I'm sending you that they are smaller on the template. I just didn't realize they looked a little big. So, okay. So we'll go ahead and glue these on next. Kind of bring them out to the end so they're touching the end of the marquee points there. All right, so same thing, go ahead and go all the way around and attach those at the points, and then we'll let it dry before we move on to the next step. All right. Oops. See, I kind of moved them to the end of that point there. All right, now let's put that last teardrop shape in, and this one's going to go in between those two coils on the V scroll there. Last one. Right, and there's your snowflake. A couple important things that you can learn from my experience. Make sure you don't let it stay in the same spot so long that it sticks to the table. So you've got to kind of wiggle it a little bit after. It's definitely important to let each phase dry in between. Like I let the center section dry completely before I added the next one and before you finish it. So I hope you have fun. I hope you enjoyed learning a new skill. Send me some pictures of your completed projects. And I really recommend that you guys do some research, go online, look at some books, and look at there's some really cool quilling projects out there. I hope you guys can get experimental, try some new stuff. Have fun. Keep an eye out for next month's Virtual Art to Go. Bye now.